What is up, Retro Maniacs? Welcome to Short Prints. That's Joe, that's EP, and I'm Mike. And today we have a special What If episode of the show for you. Gonna give you guys some what if scenarios in the card industry here and ask you a couple questions about it. So get right into it. What if number one? What if Topps took the NBA license in 2009 instead of Panini? With our working premise. Do you guys think the market would have grown to where it is now?
No, I don't think it would have, because say what you will about Panini, and we say a lot, they really brought in the super high end products as a regular thing. Like Topps
Mhm.
has some, but it seems like every product that Panini puts out, especially towards the end of seasons, the National Treasures, the Immaculate, all those things, even the Prism and Select, I mean, those are high end products. I don't think Topps would have put that much out. I think it would have been a big difference.
I think it would have been as good or better if Topps would have got it.
Okay.
As a collector, I agree with you, EP. As a
Topps
collector,
established what's driving the NBA market really are the players, and like there's just, and the popularity of the sport has just grown astronomically. So I think Topps could have they would have had to really mess up to not do it. And they have a couple of high end stuff. Like I think that maybe we would think of the high end products that Topps has in the same way we think about National Treasures and some of those other ones, because basketball would have elevated that.
Okay. Working under the same what if, do you think that Donruss and Playoff Company would have continued to stay in business? Panini bought them in 2009, shortly after they were acquired the NBA license, and they bought basically Donruss Playoff became Panini America, for those that don't know. So do you think that Panini would have still gotten into the market by buying them, or do you think they would have continued on with the football license?
I mean, I guess I'll start. I think I'm not sure. I think Donruss was in trouble. Donruss Playoff was in trouble at that time. So I don't know if necessarily they would still be around, but I don't know if they would have bought them if they didn't need to. Didn't have the extra properties.
And I don't know what products they would have had if they didn't buy Donruss and a Playoff, right? I mean, what products would Panini have actually put out, especially in basketball, right? I mean, National Treasures is a Donruss Playoff. Prism is a playoff through Pacific. So I don't know what products they would have ended up having as actual Panini products.
Okay. And the final question under this what if, do you think that Fanatics would have decided to get into the market now if Topps had gotten the license instead back in 2009?
Would Topps have been in as much trouble as they were if they had the basketball license? I guess would answer that question. I mean, if they were in trouble, I could still see Fanatics coming in and buying them, and it would have been better for them because they would have had the license already, right? I mean, Fanatics wouldn't have had to go and get the license, so it might have actually made it more enticing for them to buy Topps at that point.
Well, Fanatics kind of bought the licenses before they bought the companies now anyway. True. That might not have been different. Yeah. EP?
Yeah, I think Fanatics will still do it. I think the Fanatics situation was driven by the recent market and their thoughts that they can transform the hobby.
Okay. All right. We're going to work on what if number 2 here. This is a fun one. What if Pacific was still making licensed football cards today? What set do you think would be most popular?
Ironically, Prism.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it's one of the most popular sets.
But it would be the Pacific Prism.
Right. I think it'd be more popular. I think it looks. Yeah. I think the old school Pacific Prism looks way better than the Panini Prism.
Yeah, okay. Agree 100%.
All right. Question number 2 on that. Do you think there would be more innovation in the card market if Pacific still had it? And what kind of stuff do you think they might have been doing?
zany, off the
God
wall,
only
knows.
crazy. I can't
Yeah.
even think
But
about what Pacific would have done with cards nowadays.
Be-
I mean, they were zany in the 90s when
Mhm.
everything was zany in the 90s. I think they would have had just awesome stuff, and I think they would have just pushed the envelope. Every single product, every single season, they would have pushed the envelope with something different.
they were the originators of the Christmas tree decoration card, weren't they?
Mhm. Yeah,
And I mean,
definitely.
Yes, I
and
sold
like
a couple of
cute,
those recently.
yeah, and like the cubes that they put in some of their boxes, like the cube
Mhm.
cards or whatever, like that was their thing too. Like I mean, and even going back to the 90s and just their inserts, like their inserts are always crazy cool. Yeah.
Okay, this one's a little tougher though. Can you think of anything that Pacific may have put out in the past that might have been a set, insert, whatever you want to do, that would have been more popular now than it was back when they were released in the 90s?
Oh man, that's a good one. I when you first started saying this, I wanted to say Crown, but Crown was pretty popular back in the 90s. So that's a tough one. EP?
I mean, the prisms, like they weren't super duper popular. I don't think back then, were
Mhm.
they? They were.
No,
I mean,
no.
I think
I mean, I sold them, but it's not like it was.
people weren't. I think
the
people would
top
just
of the line. Yeah.
fall over themselves trying to get them right now.
People love die
Prism.
cuts. I'm gonna say Kramer's Choice.
Ooh,
I think that could have been a set.
yes.
I think that could have been a set
Yep.
by itself because people do love those die cuts. So it's kind of along the same lines of Crown because of the
Mhm.
die cut thing. I think Kramer's Choice
Right.
would have been a really fun.
Even
just
as an
a set.
insert set, like that could be
Mhm.
the Downtown or the Kabooms of today. Like
Yeah,
those Kramer's Choice were really hard to pull back
Yeah,
then.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
And imagine
And people
if they
weren't like
were
in
something
love
now.
with them. People weren't in
Mhm.
love
Right.
with them. They were semi-valuable because of how hard they were to get. But yeah, I think nowadays, if someone pulled one of those and they're a case hit, they'd be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I don't like to give you too much credit, but that was a really good answer.
I'll drink a beer on that one.
All right. Our final what if for today, and this one's a pretty big one. What if the pandemic didn't happen? We're not talking from a political standpoint, anything else. We're talking about cards.
Well, let me talk about the policy of the CDC. Oh, no, not that. Okay.
Yeah. So, what if the pandemic didn't happen? Where do you think the card market would be today compared to where it actually is now?
I mean, I still this industry always has peaks, has always had peaks and valleys, different times. Junk wax obviously was a valley, and then so I think we were probably in a peak at the time that was just like escalated by the pandemic, and I feel like we would still, the prices obviously would not have made it to where they were. I'm not. Would we be doing this podcast? Maybe like that's a question. I mean, so I mean, like
really,
yeah. But I feel like it definitely it made the industry more mainstream. I think it probably was inching toward that, but it never would have made it to where it is now if not for the pandemic.
So I often, when I buy big cards, I try and find what their value was pre-pandemic because of that very question. I mean, I want, because I think at a certain point, it's going to go back to pretty close to pre-pandemic values. But yeah, the card industry is nowhere near where it is. It's like, if it did move up, EP, it moved up. It didn't move up. It moved up.
No, it came back down to slightly above where it was before. Yeah.
But I'm saying if there was no pandemic, the card values, the card market, and the hobby incrementally would have jumped in value a little bit. It would not have skyrocketed anywhere near where it is or where it was, a year ago or so.
Right.
Okay. EP, you kind of jumped the shark a little bit on this one, but
sorry about that.
What do you think the percentages of any of us being involved in the hobby would be if the pandemic hadn't happened?
I mean, 2018 EP definitely would not have been buying. Yesterday I went to a local card shop and opened up a pack of cards, and that's the first time I've done that, I believe, since you had your shop, Mike.
Oh wow!
So 2018 EP definitely would be like, get out of here. There's no way you're opening a pack of cards in 2020 in a card shop.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
0%.
Were you
yeah,
calculating there, Joe? It looked like you were doing some
sorry.
math.
It's
Carry the one.
it's 12:03 on Sunday, and I just got a fantasy football offer, so I was kind of looking at that.
Trader Joe.
But Trader Joe, EP trades are when people exchange players.
I understand what they are.
I agree with EP though. I mean, I don't think. Would we have started digging for Brady cards, Mike, if the pandemic didn't happen and those cards went through the roof? Probably not. I mean, which is sad because we've had so much fun with it here in the last couple of years. I haven't, I've bought packs of cards too. I went to a card shop for the first time since Mike's. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of things that we definitely wouldn't have gone to the National. I mean, there's
No,
definitely a lot of
definitely
things
not,
that
yeah.
we've done. And as cheesy or whatever as you want to say, I think we've become closer friends through this. We used to have a group thread that we texted quite a bit on about fantasy football. Now we do fantasy football and cards and things like that. So I don't
And we get
think
together once a week and do this.
and we get together once a week and do this, which is a blast. I mean, I come into Danville every few months, maybe, and that's when I see you guys. It's nice to be able to do this. So yeah, definitely we would not be anywhere near as involved, but I'm glad we are.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've thanked you guys a couple times after the podcast about how much fun we always have during these conversations, and like thankful for the pandemic because it did kind of lead to this. So I mean,
Yeah, it did. All right, final question based on the pandemic not happening. Do you think that card grading would be anywhere near as popular as it is right now?
Oh, that's a good one. Yes. No. I take it back. I don't think it. I don't think it would be. Yeah, it is a really good question because I wanted to say, well, no, Alico 3 was getting in 500 count boxes of graded cards from PSA that he sent before the pandemic, and he did reveals. But he was the exception, not the rule. I mean, not a lot of people are Alico 3, right? So I don't think it would have been. I think a lot of the grading has to come with just trying to maximize value. And I think that got a microscope on it during the pandemic, maximizing as much value as you can out of every single card you have. So I don't think it would have been anywhere near as popular.
Yeah, I agree. I think that probably PSA would still be charging $12 per card or whatever, $15 per card or whatever it was, or $8 per card.
It was like $8.
Yeah. It would still be that because it wouldn't be nearly as popular. Like it would. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys on that too, because you had a lot of people during the pandemic that were like, oh, I collected those 1990 Hoops Michael Jordan cards. Let me dig mine out. And, we've talked many times about how PSA got backed up, and that's really what it was. It was collectors like us. We're included in that batch that, collected cards back in the 90s, early 2000s, and saw that values were starting to go up. And we dug through, and we personally didn't send everything in, but a lot of people did. Like a lot of people just saw a price, a couple $100 for a PSA 10 Hoops Michael Jordan card, and they're like, oh, I have 20 of these things, and not really understanding what the value was, but they sent them all in. So, and the Pokemon cards, like that Pokemon more than anything caused the backlog. And that was all those kids that used to come in my shop and buy Pokemon cards that are like in their early 30s, mid 30s now. And like, holy cow, my cards are worth money.
Yeah. How many Charizard PSA 5s are out there right now?
PSA 5s, twos.
Yeah, twos,
threes.
Yeah. Especially with Pokemon, because like, who knows how to grade a Pokemon card? Like the people who are experts really know, but like, even I consider myself pretty good at grading the stuff I sent in. Like I didn't do well on some of my Pokemon, especially the Japanese ones. I still don't know why I didn't do well,
Right.
Like I tried to educate myself.
I remember your big reveal. You were very confused.
But like those, I looked at the American versions that got like 9s, and I looked at the Japanese, I got 5s, and I can't tell you what's the difference in the grade. But yeah, there are a lot of people that had no idea what Pokemon grades were. They just
Yeah.
just send them all in. Might as well. So
Yeah, right.
all right, guys. Well, that was a fun one this week.
Nope.
Yeah, we get to do a what if with you.
What?
I got a what if for you,
What?
Mike. I got
got
a
one too.
what if for you. Okay.
But I'm the host.
Nope.
We're taking over the reins here for at
Yeah.
least about
Uh-oh.
8 minutes.
Okay. Okay. I'm nervous.
Okay. Mike,
Hold on.
EP, you and I might actually have the same one.
It's possible, but
What if you didn't close the card shop? So my question is, would you have been as into it, and would you have kept us into it, in your opinion, had you not closed the card shop back in 03 or 04?
that's good.
04. It was
04.
almost, it was the end of October 04. So we're hitting, what is that, 18-year anniversary coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Gonna reopen on the 20th anniversary.
I feel like you guys would have stayed interested in it. Like, I feel like, I mean, that's where we all met. That's like where our background as friends comes from the shop.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, and EP would still be coming into the shop, whether he was even buying cards or not. Like, it was a hangout back in the day. So, EP, if people had any idea about some of the conversations EP and I had on Saturday afternoons, I was supposed to close at 1:00, and I'd lock the door at 1:00, and EP and I would stand in there and talk for like 3 hours about literally nothing and have so much fun doing it. So every week too, like if there was a week EP didn't come in, it was strange. And like all the time, Joe, you spent there. So like every time you came,
or
back,
when I would get you to
shop.
close early so that we could go play golf.
Well, yeah.
1:00, we can make it 12:30. Let's hit the links.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure that we would all still be, we would have stayed in cards, would have been involved. I honestly think that this YouTube channel would have been huge because we had the ideas for this kind of an interaction.
What was
like
the
in
show
the
we
shop,
watched, Mike, with Kevin Smith? What
Comic
was the
Book
show on
Man.
Amazon? Comic
Yep.
Book Man.
Comic
Like
Book Man,
we
yeah.
watched that and we're like, oh, we could have crushed this show.
Yeah.
But back
some of the
when
stuff
I
we
had the
had.
shop, like remember all the times we said we should have cameras in here
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
edit
for
out the
sure.
stuff and make it into a show. Like long before that was even done for shows, like before Pawn Stars and everything. Like we had that idea. So I'm sure if we would have had the technology, which if I would have stayed open, this would have come along and we would have jumped on it. And I think that would have been pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, Mike,
Okay.
what if Joe said, like he said, every few months he comes back. So he comes back and we're tooling around in your card storage area, and we happen to invent a time machine, a ghetto time machine. The problem is we can only go back to 1 year. It can only go back to the shop, and you can only talk to yourself. You're only gonna have time to get out like one sentence, like one piece of advice. What year is it going to be, and what are you going to tell yourself?
I want to answer this one,
2000, and I'm going to say buy Tom Brady cards and
Perfect.
save
One
them.
sentence.
Yeah.
Buy Tom Brady.
Okay.
Buy Tom Brady. That would be
I
the
didn't know
if
easy
you're
one.
gonna-
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to go LeBron or if you're going to go Brady. Like I didn't know what you.
Well, the
were
only
gonna do, so-
difference is I would have had to pay a lot more money for LeBron.
Okay.
So
All right.
like LeBron was already a thing in his rookie
Right.
year, and like
Brady you could get
wouldn't.
for $1.
I wouldn't have the perspective of how much money it was going to be worth now. So telling me to buy like a Topps Chrome Refractor rookie for, I have no idea what they were back then, $500, I would have been like, that's $500. Like, are you crazy?
How tough is it going to be to convince yourself to save the Tom Brady cards when he wasn't even the starter yet? Like what how was it? Like,
Well, if someone's coming back in time and telling you, I think you're going to do it. But the
Okay.
real question is, what if you do have that time machine? Go back, tell yourself that. When do you sell them? When do you think the high actually is? We know it was a year and a half ago or whatever. When do you think it would have been? After the 4th Super Bowl? After the 3rd? After the 6th? I mean,
after
that's the real question.
Well, I mean, let's be real. I had a card shop, so I'm selling. I
Yeah.
definitely would not have had any of those cards left over by now, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Right.
if
Yeah.
maybe I should have told myself to buy Tom Brady cards and don't sell them until 2020, 2021, something like that. But yeah, if I didn't
It's too long.
specifically, yeah, if I didn't tell myself, I definitely would have sold them long before because
Yeah.
you know, I went through all the cards I had and I found one LeBron James rookie card that I somehow forgot about. And I didn't even find it the first time I went through. So I sold every single LeBron James rookie card I had gotten at the shop. So I would have sold the Tom Brady's. Yeah.
I will say, just as an aside to that question, Chris Sewell did a great video on this about when he sold Steph Curry rookies before the boom. And he's like,
Mhm.
but I'm a dealer. I had to make money
Yeah.
on these when I had them. I couldn't wait. I mean, I was making 10x
Mhm.
what I paid. There's no way I'm going to say, oh, I can't sell those now. Of course you're
Yeah.
going to sell them. You're a dealer. You were a card shop owner. Of course you would sell them when they 10x'd in value, you know?
Absolutely. You're doing it wrong if you don't.
Right.
So.
Right.
All right, guys. That was a fun episode. We'll be back next week. Take care, guys.
See you, boys.